Let's go.
Of course, you need to press the button. Yeah.
So, welcome to everybody to this session about data-driven innovation framework. I'm seeing more and more people joining. That is great to see. Unfortunately, we are not live in Berlin, but now we are live online. And let me share with you what we want to do in this session. We have several panelists. So I will give you at the beginning really like a short introduction to the data-driven innovation framework, which we have developed in the context of the BDVe project, which is the coordination support action of the Big Data Value Association. In order to give you a practical idea, so how to use it, how to make benefit of this framework, we thought the best thing is to do it along concrete use cases. So basically we will talk first about a use case addressing the needs of citizenship. It is about an internship finder. We might have a little break, so let's see how we are going. We will then move to a second use case, which is in the area of agriculture, where we use AI data technologies to improve grape production and quality. And then at the end of the two use cases, we will have time for question and answers. And as Jean-Christophe was just mentioning, if you would like to stay with us a little bit longer and have like a kind of an informal discussion, we will then after the session also give you the opportunity to start your video and talk loudly so that we can mimic like a real world experience. That is more or less like what we would like to share with you. I will introduce you the people joining here, and you see them on the screen, like Bernhard, Tomás, Jean-Christophe, and Laura in a minute. Let me first introduce you to the data-driven innovation framework. The data-driven framework, as I said before, was developed in the context of the Big Data Value Ecosystem, BDVe project. And the reason actually for doing so, and I think in this community, I'm not telling you anything new, it's more or less like the case that big data technologies, AI technologies have really high impact, sometimes disruptive impact on every aspect of our society, of our business, of our environment. So I think I do not need to mention what we can achieve with these type of technologies. However, if you think about how to implement and how to bring these innovation forward, what we see or what we observe on the demand side, that if you would like to use these technologies, that on the demand side we have like a lot of drivers and dynamics which you would need to have a better understanding for. So basically the markets are dynamics, the technology is dynamics, and there are also like particular drivers of the technology and the implementations. So basically is the consequence of this? If you look at real life, due to the complexity of the scenarios, of the different dynamics, and also of drivers, leverage factors that you need to keep in mind, what we're observing that on two levels, people need support. On the one side, we are talking here about the decision makers who require some kind of overview, orientation, how to make use of data-driven innovation. So where to invest, where to move forward, what is the business model behind, what are investment areas. So basically to give decision makers sort of a guidance. But we're also observing that experts would need to have get some guidance, because it's not enough to only think about the technology. You also need to have the demand side in focus. So you need to understand whether the user would need something, whether there is a market, whether there are network effects, and. So basically, this was more or less like the starting point where we got the feeling that we need to come up with a framework to guide decision makers and people and experts. I mean, so to say, there's a lot of stuff around, right? So basically, you might know the business model canvas, which is really like providing a lot of guidance for people to investigate business potential of innovations, right? However, when you have a more detailed look, this type of method does not incorporate the particularities of data. and the dynamics behind data and the economics behind data. So basically, for that reason, what we thought, we extended, or we took the business model canvas as a role model and followed in a very similar manner. You might know that the business model canvas has also developed an ontology, like different dimensions, and supported the people to explore business opportunities. And we followed the same approach, but we had in mind the data-driven innovation. And what did come out, or basically what we would like to present you right now, and we want to play around with this, is a method which is called data-driven innovation framework. This method comes with different content levels, so to say. So basically, we have identified different dimensions that are relevant to have a detailed look at. The method also comes, or framework also comes with a set of guiding questions. So basically, each of the dimension is having a detailed guiding questions that guide you through exploring the problem space of this area. And also for each of the dimensions, we have like methods in place. So basically, this is the canvas, and we will play around this canvas in a minute. Here, just to give you an overview of the dimensions we are integrating. And as I said before, we really like what is around, what we could reuse, we reused, and we also only extended the exploration, the way of exploring data-driven innovation, where we thought additional aspects would be needed. So the first dimension is the value proposition. This is here, the idea is to anticipate future customer demands. We will look at the data aspect. So basically, this is very central for data-driven innovation. So you need to understand which data assets are available, which quality they are, how to make use of it, are you allowed to use them? So basically, this we analyze at the data aspects. We analyze the technology aspects. On the one side, do you have the right tools for data-driven innovation in the area of data processing technologies? But also, how will you deliver your data-driven innovation to the user? So basically, which kind of value you will bring forward, how will you ensure that your user can consume the data-driven innovation? In addition, the next dimension is we will look at partners. So basically, which partners do you need to develop the data-driven innovation? So really like in terms of partnering that the supply side. So on the supply side, that you can bring this forward. We will look at the ecosystem. So basically here partners, we're looking at partners which need to adopt your innovation in order that you're able to bring it to the market. So basically here, there are different dynamics and leverages in the ecosystem that needs to be incorporated. We will look at network effects. Different network effects, we observe them on data level. The more data, the better the analytics, right? Infrastructure level, the more tools, the better the innovation, and marketplace level, the more user, the more attractive. So basically different network effects which are of relevant. We'll look at how you're gonna make money. I mean, this is gonna be an important question as well. And we look at the type of business. So basically, what will be the optimal market position? So these are the different aspects the data-driven innovation framework will guide you. And these different aspects all come with particular guiding questions. And I will not go through the guiding questions, but just to share with you that these will be the guiding questions which will also lead now in the use case, in the role plays, our discussion. Just for you as information, in terms of the third content level is about the tools. For each of the dimensions, we have developed different tools, and if you're interested, they are all can be accessible at the DDI Canvas website. And just to show you how this looks like, so for each of the dimensions, you have like guiding questions and also like summary. This is questions which guide you through the exploration of these different dimensions. And this is now the one for the data aspect, but we also have them for the ecosystem. So all methods here available. So basically, this is the framework which we would like to share with you. And just to give you a short overview how we are using it, we are using it on the one side on the management level. So basically, on the one side, we are using it for decision support for example, strategic investments. So it was used here for German utilities. We are using it to explore new business opportunities. For instance, we were running workshops with small, medium enterprises in Murcia in Spain, right? But also for the systematic scoping of data-driven innovation. Here we have used it, for example, inside Siemens for the internal audit people. Also in general to increase impact of research investment. So we have done this in the context of our projects, right? In terms of project level, so if you want to address like people who are working on data-driven innovation, here we use the framework also for guiding experts to really explore the data-driven innovation. I'm giving you an example. Worked here with workshops with the EDI startup incubator. We're doing this now. Next week we're doing another workshop. So basically, this is a tool for them to explore new data-driven innovation, but also to concrete projects where we analyze if there are deadlocks and tunnels, and maybe also give the recommendation to stop projects if you do the analysis. And also we are supporting on project level to ensure that projects are implemented in more efficient manner. So just to give you an idea how the method is currently used, and it is now ready for more people to use, right? And that's the reason why we are doing this session right now. So basically what we would like to ensure here, so this is our goal for this workshop, we would like to inform you, to get you in a situation that after the session you stay in and say we would like to be interested more to get engaged with us and make use of the method. In terms how did we set up, or how did we think this the best way forward to reach this? So basically, I would like to introduce all the other peoples who are here on board. Let me first move to Jean-Christophe. He's the BDVe Project Manager and from SAP. From Jean-Christophe, we will have the first use case. I told you that it is about citizen, and the goal will be an internship finder. So we will start with this first use case in a minute. We have Tomás from Atos at board. So basically, Tomás will share with us a use case in a very different domain. This is agriculture. So it's about improving grapes and probably at the end of the day, the wine, right? so basically, a very important project. Both use cases are from the AI4U project, so to say that we are very happy to have them on board. And I also would like you to introduce to Bernhard Krusche. He's the managing director of the Next Society Foundation. The Next Society Foundation is currently hosting the whole DDI framework and webpage. So basically, that we ensure that the methods can be used beyond the project, the BDVe project. Bernhard will switch into the role of an investor. So basically, we thought the nicest way to do it, that Bernhard will ask back questions to the point. We will start with Jean-Christophe showing his first case. And whenever needed, I will step in and give you a little bit of DDI framework instruction. So basically, if I think now it is of importance to say what the methods does, what are typical mistakes, or how you could get additional advice and guidance, then I will step in, right? That's how we would like to do it. So I think, Jean-Christophe, I would now, no, you guys start.
We start.
You guys start.
Yeah. So in my role as an investor, like doing like this, Jean-Christophe, I would like you to introduce your case. I have plenty of money I would like to invest. So I'm curious about value proposition. What's going on with your case? Is it worth to invest money there? So first of all, we all would need some introductory thoughts on what is the project about, what is the value proposition. So please give us a short introduction. That would be helpful.
Yeah, thanks, Bernhard. So we develop a use case within the AI for you pilots, which is called AI for Citizen, and it is around and the students, and more precisely the students in high school in Italy, because since now 3 years they have to do an internship, and it is causing a major burden to schools and to students and so forth.
Okay.
Okay. Is it enough?
I don't think so. I think you prepared a short video, as far as I can remember. That I'm really keen to look on. Maybe you can share it, that everyone gets a better idea of, okay, what is going on there, and what's the case. Sonja, I think you can.
Okay. Wait, I need.
Hang on.
Jean-Christophe.
Sure, yeah, Jean-Christophe. Yeah, easy.
I will do it. I hope my internet connection is a bit shaky, so I hope it will work.
But it works.
Hello. Nothing is happening. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, beautiful.
Nice sunset.
Nice sunset.
Okay.
I think we are on your
I
screen.
have a problem with my screen. I have a screen just basically a boom. So I don't know. I have a screen which is simply blue. So maybe I will just explain. Yeah, I will just explain. Yeah, just blue. I don't know why. So I will just explain it. So it's a pity. So we did a very nice video you can find out, and you will be able to find out. But so basically, what happened is that in the past 3 years, so we had this scheme which is all involving 1.5 million of students, all of the school and internship, and they should do, I think, 200 hours during their curriculum. You have the little ones. So basically, here we are facing different problems. So the goal, obviously, is to open students to businesses, and that they better understand what they have to do. They better apply what they are learning, and they're also trying to figure out what they want to do in the future. But obviously, there is a kind of clash between, I say, students, teenagers at schools that need to go to these companies, and it's the first time I would say that they are the first actors to do something in their life, to describe, to engage with the process, with administration, with companies, and so forth. And they don't know exactly what they are looking for. So this is I would say the main problem from the students. Then from an organization perspective, it's also quite a burden, because as you can imagine, the politicians have these nice ideas to have this new scheme entering, and to have better knowledge of better interaction between businesses and schools, but there is no extra resource. So professors just get this extra burden, and they need to contact companies to look at offer, if any, and then to try to find the people that can go to the different university and so forth. So this is I would say the second issue that we are facing. Companies in their side also have a burden, because they don't know exactly what they can get out of a student. So they need to try to understand the skills, what they can do, and what they can be really useful at. And I would say even ultimately, because we are talking about teenagers, what are they good at and why they should do that. I think that. And obviously this goes two main problems, one on the administration side, so one at the HR department that need to sign convention and so forth, and the researcher or the company, if it's a research institute, or the employees that need to have students working with them. So this is basically the frame, and the problem that we are trying to tackle is how we can use AI, in fact, to make that smoother. And I would say for different type of scenarios. So I would say for the professor, the main issues is, okay, all of the administrative burden, but also the matching, which is very difficult when you have a large population. And for the student, they have zillion of questions that they would like to support. Is it clear?
Okay, got it. So multiple stakeholders around. Jean-Christophe, my question would be, can you summarize the value proposition of your, I don't know if it's already a solution, but maybe your idea, your innovative idea, what is on the spot, what is the value proposition that you provide for all these different stakeholders? Or is it different value propositions for different stakeholders? Can you summarize this?
So may I just stop for the audience, just to give you an guidance what we are currently doing. So basically Bernhard started to ask for the value proposition, and I'm sharing currently a concept board which we have prepared and which is already like pre-filled out of the canvas. So basically just that you're not surprised what I'm sharing here on the screen. And Bernhard is now currently asking and trying to identify the value proposition, and then more or less like what he's doing, he's guiding here through the questions which we have here above. So basically he tries to understand target user and what value Jean-Christophe wants to generate for the different target users.
And if I may add, from a perspective of an investor, I'm a decision maker, so I need to make clear for myself and my company who's investing money. Does this Jean-Christophe already mentioned all the relevant aspects, all the relevant dimensions of this innovation of idea? Because sometimes my experience with startups, with people with good ideas, is they focus solely on one dimension, for example, and come, for example, with a brilliant technical solution, or come with a lot of data, but no clue whatsoever when it comes to business, when it comes to partners, when it comes to value problem whatsoever. So I use this data-driven innovation canvas as a method for me, as a framework to go systematically through all those dimensions and just double check. Is there beef there? Does Jean-Christophe already thought through all those dimensions and have some answers? And of course, because we don't have the time to go in a lot of detail here, of course, we just scratch the surface and see, just double check, is there enough information there, or should we, me as an investor, he as a case bringer, go somewhere deeper, or does he need to do some homework somewhere? So I use this as a decision maker. And for me, the first thing is there a clear value proposition in it? And Jean-Christophe, maybe now back to my role. Again, this question, can you summarize the value proposition for what stakeholder?
Yeah, I think for me, the largest group of stakeholders are for sure the students. Okay,
of course,
there are a lot of them. And basically, what we really want to support them is to make this process to get an internship as painless as possible. And for that, we need to answer questions like, okay, what should I do now? Should I apply? Who are the internships that apply to me? And so forth. So these are basically a lot of the, I would say, administrative questions that they can do a short list of the internship, but they try to understand what it is all about. So for that, we basically develop a chatbot that interacts with them, and our aim is to do some personalized guidance. So depending on your profile as a student, and this is something which is also developed together with one of the partners, which is FBK, we are selecting the internship that best fill the skills of the students, and when we provide during the interaction, we also provide the fit that the system enable to do. So this is basically the thing, and then they can interact with the chatbot, and they can build, let's say, their list of wishes. Only wishes, because they need to have, it's a process for the full school, and they basically different students that may have the same wishes. So, and then we need to sort out this problem. So the second area that we think was quite important not from the student's perspective, but for the schools. The schools are really having a lot of difficulties to manage, okay, the student, but this is already sorted. But to the next stage, which is to do the affectation. And why? Because here we are talking about, typically a professor will be in charge of a grade, so something like maybe 200 students to affect, and they have to do groups of 2 to 3 students, because basically they are internship for 2 or 3 students, and the combinatorial for that is explosive. So basically, and it's for them, it's really difficult to make a kind of a real exhaustive search and to try to do that, and it's taking a lot of time. So basically, and obviously then the students come back, say, why I didn't have my first choice, why I didn't have my second choice, and so forth. So basically we want to also give a tool to the professor that they are able to tackle that. And this is basically the main proposition value that we are addressing with the AI for you.
Yeah, cool.
And this last point of affectation is quite difficult.
Yeah.
And for that we have a nice team formation algorithm that is developed in Barcelona by FIC.
Okay. Yeah. Painless selection for the students. This is something I remember. This shorten the decision process for them, make them more choices, and automate somehow this kind of selection process. Where do I need to go? Where do I want to go? This is a value proposition I understood, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So my first hinge, because I'm an investor and I'm hearing schools, whatever, I would use this canvas and just jump to the right end of it and said, Jesus Christ, how to earn money. When I hear schools, when I hear teachers, when I know that they are not, the system is not rich. There are not a lot of resources involved there. So I don't want to do this, but the first thing could be now at the moment is just make a huge jump to the right side. I said, what kind of business is this? What kind of revenue strategy is in place in order to get this value proposition going? But I will resist this as an investor and go systematically to the next dimension. Said, I understood that for this kind of work, you need a lot of data and matching processes, whatever. So tell me something about the data aspects. Is the data in place? Do you have access to the data? And I can go through the guiding questions, right, but in details, but for our case here, it's enough to just double check. What about the data side of your idea?
Yeah.
Let me just
so
jump
basically,
in. Okay.
Yeah.
No, let me.
What?
No. I just wanted to jump in terms of where we are right now in terms of methodology. So basically, you've seen that the two of them have started with the value proposition, and now they're moving to the data. We have, in terms of data analysis, we have several questions which are of mind and which we think are important to ask. I mean, we want to understand which data is required, how the data is created, do the people have the data access, how is the data quality, and what is about the training data. And I mean, it's more or less like also the proof point, whether the people or the group, Jean-Christophe, is able to really like implement the use case. The point is that it is of importance to start with the value proposition beforehand, because the analysis of data is much easier to do if you have the value proposition already in mind. So basically, here we also recommend, so maybe only to look at maybe the students, so select one target user and then think about what data is required in order to move on. Okay, so I let you continue.
Jean-Christophe, any information you can share about the data size? Jean-Christophe?
Yes, I'm back.
Okay.
So on the data side, so basically we have the chance that the use case is run out of Trento, and they are, I would say, managing, I would say, standard website for the internship of internship portal, where companies can offer internship and where you can browse internship and so forth. So this, I would say, for the data for the internship. Then what we also get from that purpose, we also have the skills. So for all of the grade or type of schools will have the skill for each student. So for that, we have something, and basically they develop a way to extract some skills from the internship to be able to do the matching. So this is, I would say, quite good. What it's less obvious is that they never capture until now. Actually, they just say, okay, to the student, you will do this internship. So basically, the student, they just get something out. They are out of the loop and they get the internship, and they do not neither take the return on experience from the intern themselves. So basically, they do have the affectation, and then nothing else happens. So here we have a gap because we would like to do some kind of real recognition system, and for that we need the return on experience, and this is something which is problematic. Also, from a process perspective, this is not really well documented. Okay, basically it's an interactive system, but you don't have, I would say, organized process that we do like actually at SAP, and we are known for, to have these processes that we know who is in charge, how much time we will take, to give some insight to the student, to the professor, or the companies about what is the process.
So how to ensure that you get the access to the data? I mean, is it the schools, do they share it voluntarily, or how to access this data?
No. The data is stored by the local branch of the Ministry of Education.
Okay.
So not the Ministry region, and obviously there are a lot of sensitive data on top of that, because we have young people, personal information. So it's a real issue, and the reason why, in fact, for the pilot we are using pseudonymized data. But yes, indeed, this is one of the questions that we do have, that in the future, how we can access the data, and or we can also ensure that, for example, the students, they will answer to the questions and so forth, and we can also get feedback and so forth.
So until now, there is. Let me turn it this way. Do you have an idea how to make sure that the access to the necessary data is granted? Are there any ideas so far, or is it something you need to evaluate or explore in the near future?
I mean, partially yes, because it's part of the curriculum of students, so it needs to be there. But for sure, for, let's say, extra data, we need to ensure that we get the information.
And how do you ensure this?
This is a question. It's a good question.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
Just to interrupt, just a short meta comment. This is now a very typical situation. So basically, Bernhard tries really to understand how much effort is needed to get high quality data. If Jean-Christophe is not having high quality data, and I mean, it's a different thing whether he has data to implement a prototype versus implementing then a full running solution. So basically now Bernhard is the investor, is continuing in asking the questions, does he get access? Has he looked at it already? How is the data quality? And then how much effort is needed to really reach the quality? So it's a lot in terms of trying to understand whether the use case is feasible, and how much effort investment is needed to really implement it.
And as an investor, in my role as investor, it's perfectly okay that not all the questions are already answered, because this is a prototype. I got the full story. It's not implemented yet. So of course there will be open questions. Of course, I need to double check here, and I use this framework to double check: is Jean-Christophe taking enough attention to those dimensions? This is okay. Here, I know this is a problem, and we already set up a solution process for that. We're trying to figure out how to get this and this. So, as an investor, I would say, okay, you got the point. Okay, got it. You are not there already. Fair enough. But he's working on it. It's not this kind of naive, the data will come someday, or we will still continue to use the anonymous samples, and this should be enough. So my feeling here is there is enough awareness that this is a sensitive point, and they're working on a solution. Fair enough. For me as an investor, this is the information I need. And we can continue this, of course. It could be a workshop, the whole day workshop, in really squeezing, trying to brainstorm together with the startup, for example, in order to get more information, to get some solution spaces. Okay, how can we tweak it? How can we find data? But I will resist this kind of, okay, let's go into detail more, because we use this use case as an example to show how to work with the canvas. So we can continue with the next step, like technology. And I would do it systematically, going through and said, okay, what about the dimension of technology? Is there any ideas, any already solutions? Are there any solutions already in place when it comes to data processing technologies, for example, Jean-Christophe? Is there anything already in place when it comes to data processing?
So maybe I just shortly interrupt. The guiding questions we are having here is in 2 dimensions. On the one side, we will talk about data processing technologies. So basically, we are distinguishing about perception, cognition, the knowledge graph, and data storage technology. So basically, we try to identify in which areas technologies are needed. And then in the area of data application, we try to understand which value Jean-Christophe is planning to bring forward to his students. So which type of automatic analytics, whether he's automating processes, whether he's ensuring some matchmaking, and how he's at the end of the day deliver his innovation to the customer. So what is the interface he's aiming to put forward? So let's, Jean-Christophe.
See what's on the menu.
So I would say from the AI perspective here, I restrict to let's say to the AI part. So basically, we do have the chatbot. And for the chatbot, we did mainly, I would say for let's say the natural interaction, we need mainly the way a student will ask the question. So a corpus of questions that student will ask, and obviously the answers that we will need to provide to them in a way that is intelligible. So this is I would say the first thing, and we are working with a group of students. We'll do some experiment for that reason in the next month. Then we have this skills matcher, which is based on NLP, that is done by FBK, which is up and running. Obviously, we need to test it because it's not straightforward to extract skills from a natural language, but this is up and running. And we have this team formation also, which is running, which is basically giving a set of intents, wishes, and looking at the distance between the skills of an intern and the skill of the requested for the internship. We can build the teams, and with that we also have some pedagogical strategy, because basically it's a bit different than for HR. We want the student to learn something, so we also want them to have some gap. Okay, and you see for that thing we have basically the data. There are some time to be clean, but we have the data. What we are missing now, and I was putting the point about the return on experience, say both from the interns, but also maybe for the companies, are data to fulfill this proper recommendation system that will basically manage to drill down and to say that because your profile is close to another student of last year, instead of having 200 offers, I can offer to you a very small set. And this is something we will need to have a first phase to initiate.
So the matchmaking is still missing. Okay, got it. Yeah. One, in my experience as an investor, again, in my experience, this is like one of the typical blind spots, because when you talk with startups, for example, that are really deep into technology, because they invented some new data analytics, whatever, they are focused solely around this kind of, wow, cool, we have a new technology, this is the, and they often completely miss all the other dimensions. And you are, at this point especially, the risk is that you are somehow drowned into a heavily technical discussion about the advantages of a specific technology, whatever. This is fair enough. It's a good point, but the blind spot here is if it's only around technology, you miss all the other dimensions, and then it's like a shortcoming. It's like a blind spot. people are proud because they developed something from a technology perspective, but they miss all the other dimensions. And sometimes it's an interesting discussion when you open up this kind of canvas and you see like empty faces. Oh shit, we never thought about this. Wow, this is something interesting. And now the real work starts with the canvas. I'm not expecting that every question is already answered, but I want to make sure that by using the canvas, all relevant questions are asked. And if there are some blind spots, if there are some empty spaces there, I need them to make sure that this empty space is filled by good answers. So not going into this trap of going a deep dive into technology, we can continue with the next dimension, partners. I'm pretty sure you cannot do this alone, Jean-Christophe. So what is the idea? What are your experiences? What is your strategy when it comes to partners?
So
yeah, we thought about it, and for sure.
Good.
Yeah, but that's still a question mark. Okay, the schools and the Minister of Education are for sure actors on that. We not only, I would say, not one school, but a network of schools actually, because it's really to have the best service for both. I would say for the companies, maybe we need to have more than one school, that they always pick I would say, a good set of interns and so forth. What we are struggling is that we thought also about companies and how to involve them. We have also some actors like European Union for the skills, for the distribution of skill and so forth, that enable to have a common language for use case. And then we were thinking also about all of the social network, because I think this is something that the students and companies can be happy with. So basically, either because they exchange information, or maybe because also this is something that can enable to have a better reputation, to get good feedback about your companies and so forth, and a way to gather information or to push information. So this is basically the partners that we have. I have to say that for me, it's a partner ecosystem for the time being. I would say it's a bit mixed, because we didn't make the choice, and also to try to understand how we can do the difference. But we have this thing. Obviously, on the ecosystem, we can also think about maybe advertisement and so forth that can be linked with that. But this is still open.
This is still open. Okay.
So just let me clarify, because we have very often the question, what is the difference between partner and ecosystem? And just have a detailed look about what we are asking here. We are asking here two different questions. On the one side, when we look at the partners, we looking at all the partners we need to build our innovation. So it's more on the supply side. So basically, maybe there's somebody bringing complementary assets. Maybe it's about data, additional data, technologies. And then we try to understand how we establish with them sustainable partnerships. So it's a lot in terms of very similar questions, what you're having to when you're doing like in terms of project management, and you're doing joint project with another partner. And we are analyzing and trying to understand what risks are involved if somebody is not delivering. So it's very close to the typical project management, but what we are doing with the partners involved. When we look at the ecosystem, so this is a different type of partner. So basically here we try to understand which partners we need to adopt our innovation in order to bring it to the market. So basically others who need to use it in order that this will be of success. For Jean-Christophe, I mean, he is on the one side, I think when I go down here, on the one side, we have here the schools who need to have in terms of bring the data. So basically, he really need them to have it in the role of partner, because they have to bring the data sources. So probably some kind of engagement is needed here. But on the other side, they also need to adopt it. So basically, why would they be interested in using it? How will it improve the way of doing their work? Why is it something they are really like interested in? very often when we identify people in the stakeholder being part of the ecosystem, as we really need to understand how to engage them, how to be part of our value chain, right? We very often go back to the value proposition and then analyze it in further detail, because we need to understand roles and interests, happiness point and pain points in order to engage them.
Yeah, I'm just looking at my watch. I mean, we're running out of time a little bit at least. I would like, I think the idea, the basic idea of using the canvas as a scanner in order to really double check the relevant dimensions. I think the idea is pretty clear here. And again, it's completely okay if there's not any answer to any question here. We just need to identify the blind spots. We need to make sure that every dimension is being addressed, and there at least are some ideas how to proceed, how to access, how to approach the challenges in those dimensions. So we can skip, I think, network strategy and revenue. Now, let me just, Jean-Christophe, maybe one or two questions, because this is something that is really bothering me a lot. Is there any idea of a revenue strategy? As an investor, I'm investing, so I need return on investment on it. I understand the idea, it's fascinating. I can see value there for scholars, for teachers, for the school, even for the guy. So I understand, but how to make money?
Yeah, this is a question. So I think in order to make money, you need to have a value, okay, and the value for the different actors are different. I think for both the companies and the schools, what we perceive is that they will need less time to manage the interns, to manage the internship and so forth, and they will have a bigger reach. For example, the companies when they want to hire new talents and so forth. So in terms of value, this is what we expect. We also expect that maybe if they are in the last year, kind of long-term relationship between young talent and companies, that they can have some retention and they can hire more easily the people, and they have a better reputation against the students and so forth. So this is kind of value that we want to link the revenue with. And for the students, obviously, this will be more, let's say, support them to have a better recommendation about this their path to success. This is basically what we have in mind. In terms of revenue, this will be probably quite different, and we are thinking about different way. If we are talking about school and Ministry of Education, I would say they are traditional public sector actors, so they can buy maybe license or software as a service, but we don't have a lot of creativity around that. Then for the students, we can think about a kind of maybe advertisement or freemium, but the problem is that maybe this can clash with the value, I would say, from the school in terms of ethics. They don't want to have advertisement. Also, this is something we have in mind, and also to have this kind of proper recommendation can be more fine-grained for people paying, but then we need to sort out if it's something which is acceptable from the school's part, which is fair, I think. And for the companies, I think we can be very creative. It can be a kind of give to give. So basically, they can maybe sponsor the platform because they will win time in hiring or in the process, or they can have reputation mechanisms and so forth. So it's quite open to what we can do. I think the two main stream of money is likely to come from the Ministry of Education one side and the company the other side, because I don't think that the student will have a lot of money to spend on that, even if their parents probably who are willing to have them to have the best thing. So it will depend on the service you can offer.
Yeah, cool.
Sonja? Just a small break or like meta level. The information Jean-Christophe just shared with us is a very typical situation. So basically what we experienced is that he listed here the different types of revenue model he thinks for the different target groups. And this is something for the data-driven innovation is like you have different revenue streams or possible revenue streams, and at the end of the day you need to understand which are going for whom, and each target user might be involved differently, and some of them will be really like the ones who are not paying small or like getting advertisement freemium, and who are the ones who will be the core payer. So basically at the end of the day we also by now we have skipped the network effects, but quite often it's like we are engaging maybe users whose data we need with a freemium or like an advertisement, and then others are paying for services that would be relevant. So basically I think what Jean-Christophe shared by now is a good starting point, but at the end now the work would now start to really like analyze and to see about what would be the minimal payment needed, and how long you would need to get like investment, and how much maybe the ministry would need to pay in order to make all this stuff running.
And in order to get there, I mean, Sonja already mentioned the 3 different levels of content creation, so to speak. So this is like the overview. Working with the canvas is giving orientation, just double checking the blind spots, and get a real comprehensive 360 degrees view around, okay, this, I got the idea of this, are all the relevant dimensions already mentioned. If we want to dig deeper in this, this is another content level. Then for this, there are tools in place for each and every dimension where you can really dig into more details and really ask those nasty, pesky questions. And so, please explain me again, what kind of, if you go for a subscription, please explain me who is paying for this, why is she paying? So this is another level of content when you just already focused on one, how to say, of one direction. You can underpin this kind of orientational knowledge with more detailed tools, and they are, or Sonja mentioned already, they are all available at the website. You can just download it and start to work with it. To every and each dimension, you find tools that help you, assist you, deepening the level of content production that is necessary in order to fulfill all the necessities of the canvas.
Okay, good. So now Jean-Christophe, Bernhard, any, I think there should be like a last summary before we switch to the other use case.
Yeah, and Jean-Christophe, I would like, because obviously you worked already with the canvas, we can see it's pre-filled somehow. I would be interested in what is your experience working with this canvas when it comes to your specific case. Was it helpful? Do you miss something? So just on a jumping out of the case again. So what is your experience working with this canvas when it comes to your specific case?
Yeah, I think we are coming from a EU project. So basically, although I'm also involved with the higher education and research branch of SAP, here we were not so much, let's say, focusing at the beginning on the business side, but more on the technical side, the data, the technology, and so forth. So this is the platform. Now, thinking about the ecosystem, the network strategy, the revenue strategy type of business, I think this is something that I think it's important, and the link, especially the proposal value with the way you can make the money, but also the network strategy, especially here, because actually you will probably really need a good network strategy to make that happen, to have this kind of internship as a service. And one can think about something like, because I was also recruiting interns, and not only the one from high school, but from Master of Science, of MBA, and so forth. And when you're recruiting, it's just always a pain. You don't know when you can get your intern, when you have to submit the stuff. Then you're getting a zillion of mail from different universities. Oh, my best student here, there. You have to submit that there, and there. So if you want to get good interns, you need to submit that. On the other side, you have a HR department, which is basically willing to post that only on their website. So basically, this kind of thing that is a problem. And indeed, if you think about it, having kind of, would say, internship as a service, both from the company side, from the interns, and from the school, because basically they are the three main actors. I think this will be quite a breeze for everybody because of that. But to make it happen, you need to have a lot of people moving a bit, from their, this idea of, we are anyhow, I'm a school. I have my portal. So the companies, they just have to publish there. And on the other side of the company, say, oh, we are a big company. We publish in our portal, and how to make the match and so forth. I think this is quite interesting. It's moving. Okay, it's not the same like 10 years ago, obviously.
Of course.
But still, you have this kind of at least effectively, you still have these. I still receive these mails, for example, from university, and I think this and this is why, in fact, I think for the time being, we don't have something which is great for the free type of actors.
Okay, and using the canvas, going through all those thoughts was helpful enough, I suppose, right?
Yeah. In fact, it was when I was thinking about the revenue strategy, and then basically I think, okay, there is no way that one actor can pay for everything.
Yeah.
And then we need to have the network strategy, and then we need to build that.
Yeah. And you can see with this, like playing around with the different dimensions, like you really add value by using this, because it leads to another thought, it leads to another solution. So you can just play around with the dimensions and get new ideas of, okay, got it. We need to do this and this and this and this. As a pilot, I think it's a perfect contribution.
Okay, good. So then we can, I think, close this case and go to the other one. Is this right? You guys are fine? Jean-Christophe? I just would like to share that this is from us working with this tool. We are really like at the very beginning. You have seen that we only have touched one value proposition, so we didn't dive into the other areas. So if we would now continue, we would also analyze each of the value proposition in singular, try to understand whether this data is available, map it to the technology, and then also have a look at the data, at the network strategy. So whether the more data, the better the service. So how many users and providers needs to be in place. So we need to understand this. And at the end of the day, we would need, so Jean-Christophe, we have not touched this yet. This is going to be a service, or it's going to be more like a marketplace, because the complexity might be quite different. And we have not yet touched this. So just to give the audience the impression that this was like only like a snapshot and a very beginning. So Jean-Christophe, thank you. Thank you for
maybe there is a question from Gabriel Gonzalez on the chat. Which is, I think we can address right now.
Cool.
Should there be a column within technology on sensible technology data matching skill can be a sensitive topic in terms of fairness and bias? And these principles are taken from a trustworthy use of AI in this environment. I think this is what I think part of the questionnaire, and Sonja can say that. Part of the questionnaire, there are some questions related to that, not maybe at the first level, but at the second level. And this is also what I try to do with some of the little icons showing, for example, personal data or gaps and so forth, tagging the data. But maybe, Sonja, you want to elaborate on that, or you can dig into this aspect of fairness or sensible technology.
I mean, Gabriel, you just touched, I mean, all this discussion about the trustworthy AI, right? I mean, these are additional requirements, and in general, I mean, it's on the one side, it's about the input data, what we are having, that we ensure that you have access to the data, GDPR, the data is in the right quality. And then in terms of the requirements you would need to address, this would then be covered in the value proposition. But this is now, we didn't have the chance to touch it right now, because it's then the more detailed analysis. And if you look at the methods which are guiding you to through each of the dimensions, you're going to find the aspects addressed. Thanks for raising this important topic.
And in our preparation, let me add this, in our preparation, we already touched in the internal discussion again on many different aspects, and this is now the case becoming bigger than the method in this case. You start to really dig into content, and we need to be aware that this is not the time and not the right setup to really solve the case, although there are a lot of questions, because it's an interesting case, of course, but we wanted to show the work of the DDI canvas and not trying to solve any case there. So just let's make sure that this is an example, and we don't have the time to really dig into details there, because then we need definitely more than 2 hours.
So then I think we can move. So Jean-Christophe, thank you again for your case. Gabrielle, thanks for your question. Tomás.
Do we need a break? No, I think we can, because we're running out of time. Yeah, we continue, right?
Is this okay to continue? I would just continue.
Yeah,
Tomás, are you okay without break?
Fine with me.
Yeah, I think. I mean, in case people need break, they
do it. So Tomás, the same question, maybe in the beginning. Maybe you can just give us a short summary on your case, on the value proposition. Where are you at the moment when it comes to your project? Just a short introduction.
Yeah, sure. I prepared a couple of slides, if I may, because I think it's easier to explain this with some support here. So it's more or less the same that in the case of Jean-Christophe, because we both come from the same project. You mentioned at the beginning, Sonja, that those two examples come from different pilots from the AI for You project. So in this particular case, it's a scenario, a pilot based or in the scope of agriculture. So it's different, but it's from the same project. Just to make a bit of background of that, as it is an AI for You pilot, as you can imagine, one of the main objectives of the pilot is to actually showcase somehow the AI for You platform and the capabilities that this AI for You platform has. So it's not only about delivering these services or the things that we are doing, these AI models, to the external world, and therefore cost or saving cost or gaining or earning money is not the primary driver of this particular pilot, but is to actually showcase the AI for You platform. But this doesn't mean that we have secondary objectives, of course, that are more related to this, which is basically, on the one hand, we have a technical objective, which is this developing of AI data-driven models for assessment of quality and production of grapes in a vineyard, helping, therefore, the vineyards to cut costs somehow. By predicting this production in advance and predicting about quality, and I will go about this a bit more later. And also at the same time providing these models, this data that we are gathering to other developers of application for the smart farming domain in order to make use of them and improve their own application. So it's not only about us making money, but also about giving the possibility of others, especially SMEs, startups, to make money. So there are some secondary objectives that are not so secondary, but in the scope of a project that they are seen as secondary somehow. So just mentioning very briefly that in AI for You, and I will go about this in the partner section of the DDI canvas, we have several partners that are working with us in this particular pilot. We have 3 R&D institutions that are well-known experts on AI or in knowledge graph domain, and also in health observation. We have also an SME, and this is important because this SME is particularly, the scope of this SME is particularly in the agriculture domain, in the smart farming domain. And we have also one big company, Atos, that is working on as a system integrator, but also as AI expert in this particular domain. Okay. So the problem that we address, as I mentioned, is that the vineyards, they have to know in advance somehow, they have to be able to predict their production for several reasons, but also the potential quality of the grapes. I say in several reasons for production, because in some specific wine regions, there are some laws that doesn't allow to product more production than the initially scope for this particular region. So sometimes they have to discard part of the production because they are exceeding the quota. So this is one thing that is important to understand. On the other hand, they need to know the quality of this production, because as you may know, when you are producing wine, some grapes are going to produce a specific quality wines, while other production of the same vineyard even can go to production of wines that are of less quality. So it really depends on the quality of the grapes. This is assigned to a specific type of wines or not. So knowing in advance which areas of the vineyard are producing better quality grapes is also helpful for them. Mm-hmm. I see that Jean-Christophe is actually enjoying wine, which is actually the scope.
Hopefully a high quality one. Target user number one.
Okay, so this is quite important. So helping on the decision support for vineyards is important for them to save money and to plan ahead somehow beforehand. And also it's important in terms of value proposition that our idea is to develop this and deliver these AI models in order to use the data that we have at hand, which is on the one hand satellite data coming from especially from Sentinel data, but also images from drones that we are taking in the field. And last but not least, we are using data from mobile applications that we are using to take close-up pictures and actually deliver the production from those pictures. At the end of the day, it's all about saving costs for the farmers. So providing these smart farming applications based on AI and based on the data that we are collecting. And for that, we plan to prove this, at least in the scope of the project, with an early adopter, which is the small and medium-sized enterprise, smart rural that is working with us in the pilot. So this is the value proposition. So, and those are the two slides that I had. So I don't know, you would like Bernhard to ask a few questions before we jump into the canvas.
Yeah, I mean, we can, because I think the procedure is quite clear. It's quite obvious there. I would be interested in knowing, Tomás, how did you use the canvas in order to sort your thoughts? You work with the canvas. I can see already it's pre-filled. So please, can you share some of your experiences when you use the canvas? How did you do that? What is your experience there? Because I don't want to go again to all this dimension. I think this kind of idea is pretty clear. So I would like to really share your experience by working with the canvas.
Yeah, in my case, to be honest, as I mentioned before, we are coming from a project. So the primary objective was not actually to make money. So we were mostly on the left-hand side of the canvas all the time. So as you mentioned before, when you are technical people tend to stay much into the technical aspect rather than diving into the business aspects somehow in many cases. And this is exactly the case in this particular pilot, because it was not initially done for making money. So when I tried to use the canvas, I tried to arrange somehow my mind in order to see how these ideas that we have on the technical side could fit with actually a business model or something that could help not only us, but other SMEs or startups to make money out of this. So on the one hand, just facing the canvas is something that helps you to somehow understand what you are doing in a better way. Because I started from the left-hand side, from the technical aspects, the data aspects. But for me, this is quite clear and easy to fill in, because it's what we are doing. So data comes from, as I mentioned, from different sensors, mobiles, etc., drones, etc. We have more or less a clear, between commas, value proposition. At least this is what I thought at the beginning, because later I refined a little bit after facing the canvas. So going through the right-hand side was harder in a sense, because I tried to start from the right-hand side, from the type of business, and it was difficult at the beginning because trying to understand the type of business, if it is from the perspective of an SME, for instance, that could make use of these results for making money, for making applications, or it can be also from a company perspective like mine, so how we can make money out of it, or even from the project perspective from A4U, so how we can help, not in this case making money, but at least
Other people
showcasing the results of the project and make available for the project these results was at the beginning it was not so clear. So I did like several attempts here on the right hand side until I fill in these three parts. At the beginning, I was just focusing on my company. Later, I thought on the SMEs. That is also, it was in the back of my mind, but it was not entirely clear. And suddenly, I figured out that I forgot really about the project. So I have to fill in different parts, and especially when I went to the left, I forgot something, and then I went back to the right to fill in this. So in the end, it was helpful because I had some things, as I said, in the back of my mind that were not reflected correctly here. And this helps to understand exactly if something on the left-hand side is not entirely correct. So maybe you are not doing the right things, because one thing that is interesting here is like getting data is actually very expensive in this particular area, because as you can imagine, data in the agricultural field means that you have to take pictures on the field with drones or with mobile phones, which means someone should go there, fly the drones or take the pictures. But then, especially for the pictures from the mobile phone apps, you need to label them, and labeling is a costly process. And normally in agriculture, you don't. It's not enough to have 1 year of data. You need several years of historical data in order to understand the complexities of agriculture, because it's a very complex domain. It's not the same the weather conditions from 1 year to another. I don't know, many things. So even the type of grapes are different between different farms. The way they put the vines, if they are closer to the ground or up. If the lines of the grapes are facing west or east or north or south, so this is quite different between different vineyards. So you will need at the end of the day several years of data from different vineyards. So what we are doing in this pilot is limited in that sense, because we don't have all these years of data. We have 1 summer. We would expect to have 2 summers of data, plus an historical data that we got from previous years from Smart Rural. But it's not enough to create a high quality model, but it's enough at least to test that the model is working more or less fine. And you have to understand that in the future, you have to invest more in getting more training data if you want actually this to be delivered to other locations where the conditions are different. So this is, for me, one of the aspects that is critical in this particular use case. Is critical not only here, in all agricultural processes. I would say that is more or less the same, but this is something that affects a lot also to the right hand side, where you are thinking about how to make money out of it. So you need to understand that you need to invest some money also in curating data, getting data, etc., before delivering the services in a particular location or for a particular customer.
So may I just step in? Tomás, thank you for sharing. I mean, this is this use case is not the first one with us working with EU-funded projects, which are in general like ensure that several players are involved and working together towards one solution, as here is the case. I mean, Tomás mentioned that this is like an SME, there are end users, technology providers, so different players are involved. And then in addition, the AI4U platform, right? That very different interests, and in the setup, the beauty of the description of work, all of them come together and really like find themselves and putting a new an innovation project forward. But this is not the same situation when at the end, then a day afterwards, after developing it, you're gonna bring it forward in terms of dissemination, right? And I think Tomás has done a really nice job in terms of collecting all these different ideas. And you see like on the board, we have like many of them. And in terms of now for what we recommend, as soon as all this brainstorming is done and all the ideas are collected, and I think Tomás, you have already indicated the very right point. And I just want to make it visible or on a meta level understandable for our audience. If you move to the left, I mean, you have identified two different value target user, right? The one, and both of them are represented as members in your project. This is on the one side, the SMEs, the companies who would use it, or like the end users of vineyards and farmers. And as next step in terms of processing, we would always ask you to focus first of one of them in order to make it not too complex in the analysis. So basically, we would now in finding a one way through the whole data-driven innovation. My recommendation would now to have a closer look at the SMEs, maybe as user, and then to walk it through and to analyze it, to think about how could the assets you are building, or like how could you fill out the data-driven innovation framework from the perspective of an SME, as you mentioned here on the left side.
Okay. Yeah, from the perspective of an SME, basically as I mentioned before, the idea is that they could use these AI models and data to actually provide high added value services for their own applications. So normally these SMEs will be active on smart farming, and they will have some offering already, not precisely about maybe this particular thing about the assessing quality, but they probably have customers in this sector. So they would like to improve their own application, their own services, by adding these AI power services to assess quality and production prediction. So for them, what we are doing is to actually deploy and deliver these services in an open source repository. So this can be accessible directly by the SMEs, and also the data that we are collecting will be accessible. So they could replicate and train again the models if they like. They could use the same methodology to collect data in different locations and retrain the models that will be available. So in a sense, for them, it will be like easy to actually create this added value application within their own applications. On the other hand, normally, as you know, with these open source models, people normally tend to offer some consultancy services around, because it's not so easy sometimes to actually enter into the code made by others and start doing modifications and so on. But this is somehow the value proposition for the members of the project, or the people that has been developing these services, not for the SMEs. So for the SMEs, I would say that this is a kind of open source framework where they could take these services, they could take these models, this data, tailor it to their own needs, to their own applications, and then start making money out of it. So in this sense, if we focus only in the SMEs, I think those are just these added value services based on an open source model that they could actually download and deploy from the AI4U platform.
So would you perceive them as a partner or part of your ecosystem?
Though, as I mentioned before, we have like two sides of the coin. One thing is the SMEs from outside the ecosystem or the partners that we have, and on the other hand, we have the partners that we are developing these models. So if we look from the project perspective, we are developing some models, we are developing some know-how about how to make these models work. And the idea for us is to actually make some consultancy services, or even to be able to deploy these services besides in AI4U, maybe in different platforms. And I mentioned here also in the canvas that, for instance, there are these DIAS services that are services provided by companies fostered by the European Commission for Sentinel-based services, for satellite services. But in those particular DIASes, you can even deliver these services for other data coming from drones or from mobile. So we could even provide a kind of added value services from a company perspective, not from the SME perspective, to actually make money out of it. So selling these services to the companies, and they could interact with these services directly for a price or for a fee. So there are different business models. But again, this is the other side of the coin. This is the partners or the organizations that are working in the development, and the other side is the companies, especially startups and SMEs that could use the open source software and data to actually make their own applications.
Yeah, got it. Interesting. And maybe just one question to dig a little bit more into more details when it comes to network strategy, Tomás, because Sonja already mentioned that there are 3 different levels: the data level, the infrastructure level, and the marketplace level. So maybe we can use your case just to illuminate this kind of different levels, because I see you already made some thoughts about this. Maybe you can share this, that our audience get an idea of what does it mean to have network effects on 3 different levels.
Yeah, I was also reflecting about this a little bit. At the beginning, it was, to be honest, it wasn't entirely clear to me how to address this part. So what I did, and I don't know if it is correct or not, but this is what I understood, is that I had to look at these 3 levels, data, infrastructure, and marketplace. And from this particular scenario that I was mentioning in agriculture, from the data perspective, as I mentioned before, we are sure that we will need in the future more data in order to extrapolate these results to other locations or to other conditions. So this is something that let's say, it's a network effect that we need to take into account on the one hand. And also, almost sure, based on this data, probably we will need to make some adjustment to the models. So the models will not remain as they are right now. And this means that if we are following, for instance, this open source approach, that means that someone has to take care of these changes in the future. So that's an input to understand that maybe these consultancy services or these other services could help to actually being able to maintain these based on the different data that comes into place and the changes that you have to make to the models.
So
this is
Tomás, just one question. Can you, when you talk about we, to whom are you referring to?
I mean, people that know about these models and the development of the models. This could be, as it could be open source, so this could be anyone in principle. But as you can imagine, in many cases, people tend to go to the actual developers of the solution to ask them to provide these services as a consultancy or something like that, because sometimes it's not so easy to get into a model of a different organization and update it. But in principle, it could be done by anyone.
So, I mean, being an outsider on the whole case, I understand, and this is pretty obvious on a data level. The more data you have, the more value you can create. So this network of effect on data levels seems to be pretty clear. Although I don't know the technology to get there, this is another dimension there. Okay, but I got the idea of, okay, this is something to take into account. What about the infrastructure?
Yeah,
how to create network effects on infrastructure level?
So
yeah, from an infrastructure perspective, I also thought that the problem here is that, for instance, in the project AI for You, that there is this AI for You platform on the one hand that allows to create these models and to being able to deploy these models directly from infrastructure. So we have an experimentation facility where we plan to deliver these services. And also we have a catalog where we will have the data there accessible. So there is a kind of, and this is mixed somehow with the marketplace level at the same time, because this is kind of, it's not a marketplace, but it's something similar to a marketplace where people could actually get the models, get the data, and use it. But on the other hand, I was mentioning before about these DIA services that I also have here because those services are more at the infrastructure and also software and service provider level, where you don't need to rely on your own infrastructure to actually run these services. So this is like a platform as a service and software as a service solution, where you can we can, for instance, upload all these services and being able to run companies or SMEs could run the services directly for a fee here, for instance.
Let me just share in terms of infrastructure level, network effects on infrastructure level, and I think Tomás has already mentioned it very nicely. It is very much in the area of product platforms here. So basically you enable other innovators to build their innovations, right? And this is something which is on the heart of AI for You platform. And as Tomás was saying, I mean, the more open source AI models are available. So these are tools and toys for others to build innovation, right? Also like the DIIS, the services which are provided via DIIS. The more services are available, others can use to build innovation. So basically on the perspective of an platform, as for example, AI for You wants to bring forward, it is critical to understand what are tools and toys for others to build innovations. And on the other side, to ensure that others are willing to provide such assets for them to use. So basically, but it's on the core, it's like that you think about the more tools and toys are available. We are talking about the catalog, so more assets are there, the more interesting the platform in general gets. And this is on the other side closely related to the marketplace level, where you have like the more users or consumers, the more interesting than the marketplace gets. But in terms of the network effects you have on both levels, however, you have very different strategies. I mean, if you need to ensure that you have like more users and consumers, you need to make like communication, marketing, and engagement strategies to get more users on board, right? But if you look at the network effects on infrastructure level, you need to ensure that you find more services, you need to build more tools, and all these tools need to allow to make your offering more attractive, right? So basically there are different aspects, and we distinguish in the analysis because different strategies needs to be addressed.
And because this is an EU project, it's open source, sharing, whatever. If I'm now Apple or Google, whatever, I would try to monopolize this kind of interplay between data level infrastructure and marketplace, because this is then my business model in the end. The better infrastructure, the more users, the more data, the more better. So it's like a circle starting, and I'm just in the middle of it and just controlling and dominating all the different levels of flow and flows, and therefore just switching then to the business strategy, trying to find a market position and some revenues out of this kind of circle that I created, right? Okay.
Right. In fact, this could be more interesting, for instance, if we apply this DDA canvas to the whole AI for EU project. That would be very interesting exercise, I guess, because in the end, we are just pilots on that project. We are trying to enhance the possibility of exploitation of the AI4U platform and also the sustainability aspects of the AI4U platform. So I just contributing to that in a sense, while on the other hand, as we are doing some specific scenarios and some specific pilots, we can think about how to make money for them, and that's the whole exercise that we are having here. Applying this type of canvas for the entire project could be very interesting.
That's right.
But Tomás, I mean, this is very important what you're saying right now, because the in West now, when we would continue with the deep dive with the data-driven innovation canvas, we would really like separate the discussion, because we would do one only for the AI4U project and understand the sustainability of this large project, how this can be addressed and fostered. And on the other side, we are thinking on how to ensure that the assets you are building in the AI for agriculture pilot, so how this particular asset could help for example, a winery, like an end customer, to build an additional business, or a technology provider, right? In the discussion right now, we have mixed several levels.
Yeah.
However, I mean, your use case is quite complex, right?
Yeah, in fact, for instance, when we started the project, we didn't have any winery or any end user in our pilot, which was a problem as usual. So what we did in the first months of the project was actually try to engage with some external users, wineries in the Ribera del Duero region in Spain, in order to actually get the data, and also being like the first people to train and to validate with the solution. So at the end of the day, right now we have like 3 different wineries where we are getting images from drones and from mobile phones, and we plan to do the same during the next year. So engaging the end users is crucial, I think, in this in all I would say in all innovations, but in particular in a project where we didn't have that at the beginning, it's also very, very important.
Yeah, and maybe to just shortcut and end the case, just like the last question from my side, the same like to Jean-Christophe was, can you share some of your experiences using the canvas, just separating the case and using the canvas to work with the case? We are discussing a lot about the case, fine, and now I would like to switch and just be curious, because obviously you use this toolbox and this methods. So any insights you could share with us and our audience when it concerns using the DDI framework in your work?
Yeah, I think that I think I said that at the beginning that for me it was a very interesting exercise, because we were more in the left-hand side of the canvas, thinking about technology mostly, and not a lot about business. And when I had to face this particular canvas, suddenly you start thinking on other things, you know. So the questions that this canvas ask make you also question yourself on the left-hand side, on the technology aspects, if you have chosen the right technology, or if maybe the way you are collecting the data is probably too expensive for an application that can be sustainable afterwards. So these things that maybe you should have asked yourself at the very beginning, and you didn't, maybe because you were too focused on the technological advances and these type of things. I think they are very important. So to me, one of the main, let's say, ideas that I had while looking at the canvas is that probably it's a good idea to have this from the very beginning in any endeavor that you make, being a project, a pilot, a startup, or whatever. So having in front of you this whole picture helps you to not only to make a proper business decision, but also to make proper technical decisions. And then to me, this is very important. So sometimes you try to do something very sound from the technical side, but if you don't think on the business side, at the end of the day, maybe what you're doing is not worth it. So it's important to have this whole thing in mind from the very beginning. Otherwise, you may fall into traps that later are difficult to escape. Yeah.
And I can just add to this, working in practical environments, working with the canvas. I mean, from my experience and Sonja's and our experience, it's exactly the same, the same experience we made. When you start to work, for example, with startups, usually they have a specific bias, be it technology, be it business, for example. They're only focusing making money, fast exit, whatever. And they miss some of those dimensions. And it was always like an eye-opener for them when they understand, I can make a better pitch. I can have a more comprehensive idea of my own business when I just take into account all the dimensions. Not necessarily answer all those questions. I mean, this is like not to be confused with. It's not like a multiple choice where you just check. You will find open space there. And this is the interesting thing, to understand, okay, here's something unsolved. here's something that you need to understand further in more detail in order to be prepared when, for example, investor starts to ask questions, when you need a new finance round, for example, you need to be prepared that people are asking those questions and you are well prepared there. So this is our experience as well when we work with the canvas, especially with startups. In corporate environments, it's different, but with startups, exactly as you mentioned, this is like an eye-opener.
May I also add another aspect? Thomas, can you, when you share the screen, can you show the whole canvas? Because what I would like to indicate is that, I mean, on the left side, value proposition, data, technology partner, we have the supply side. And in general, I mean, the most of us coming from the technology side, it's just really like easy to like easy. I mean, it's complex enough, but it's like we are familiar to fill it out, to address the question there. And on the other side, ecosystem, network strategy, revenue type of business, we have here the demand side. And the point is that in general, what I experienced when we are asking like people who have filled or scoping a use case, and then you are asking question, why is this successful and why is this impactful? Then there's a tendency to add additional functionalities. So add something more and add additional data source and add more and more. And then on the supply side, what you see on the left side, it's getting huger and huger. And then what you observe that at the end of the day, you see in the middle, we have here a little bit between partner and ecosystem, we call it eye of the needle. So basically, when you're starting to doing the analysis, you try to be very, very focused in order to understand the demand side. So all the network effects, the type of business, the stakeholder, because you only want to have a very small focused offering, which you analyze and which you bring forward. And then in the discussion, it's like we try to get focus the supply side and then only analyze very focused particular aspects and get rid. So Thomas, as you just mentioned, we only look at some functionalities, we make decisions on a different level, that it becomes easier to analyze on the demand side. I'm now just looking at the watch because our timing was like this, that we might also have some time for questions and to engage the participants. So now I would like to ask Thomas and Bernhard, are additional aspects you would like to discuss in this use case, or how are we doing?
I think, I mean, the risk is always to jump into the use case and then get somehow entangled in the content side. This was not the objective of this kind of session. So we would like to use the use case as a demonstration for how to work with the canvas filled with practical experiences. Okay, I think this is fair enough. It worked for me. It worked. I would be more curious to get some comments or maybe questions from the audience. A lot of people are online, and I think there must be some questions on this. So I would end this kind of demonstration and just switch over to interaction.
As investor, you're happy.
I'm not happy, but I've asked some interesting questions, and I would like to go deeper then, but then more content there, more tools, whatever. This is not feasible in this amount of time. We need, I would suggest as an investor, I would suggest a workshop, for example. Let's meet for one day and just go into every detail that I'm satisfied as an investor and understand in what kind of business I do my investments there. But this was not the objective of this session.
Okay, good. So then let's do the following. Either we have some questions from the audience, or I maybe summarize the method once more.
Yeah, maybe double check. Jean-Christophe, and you're the host of it. Can you open the mics, or I don't know how to do it technically, because obviously we cannot discuss with 60 people, but how can we solve this, that there's at least a chance of some people outside our presentation, that we can invite them into a short discussion maybe?
Jean-Christophe, we can't hear you.
You're muted.
I think what you can do is you can raise your hand if you have a question that you want to ask, and then I can give you the mic. And I saw people that I know, but if not, I will say to them that if they have questions.
We know you all.
Want to raise your hand. I asked some question in between. I have maybe just to start with the questions, and I can start with a question which is more a suggestion to you. Is that during the discussion, and it was already apparent with me, with my use case, but I think even worse with Tomás' use case, is that there are some data that are really costly. And how can we just say capture that, the fact that it's something that is either it's already the data acquisition can be costly, or the time to train to label the data, or the fact that it's a recurrent and so forth. And this is something that may not appear obvious on the canvas. Obviously you have the question that you deep dive, but maybe how can we carry back that stuff? And it's also bounds to the question of I think Gabriel that was raising to respect to bias or GDPR or whatever. Or can we, let's say, enrich a bit, at least from to be sure that we are tackling that? So you already start on of the questions and
yeah, exactly. So basically for the as I said before, we have like the canvas, we have the guiding question, and then we have an additional step, we have tools for each of the dimensions. And what we hear from the people is that the data explorer, which explores the data aspect, seems to be the one which the people are using the longest time. And here exactly what we are asking is we are identifying each of the data sources, and then we are scoping where the data comes from, who's producing it, are we allowed to access it, how is the data quality. And I mean, in terms when you talk about data access, we come to the point, is it about GDPR? Am I to use it? Because if it's personal data, then it's difficult. What strategies do I need to do? And at the end of the day, we also we decide how important is the data source for me? So how important is it for me to implement the use case? And on the other side, how costly it is to implement it. So basically, we have a very simple forward decision matrix, and giving them, the people then get a feeling of prioritization of the data sources they would like to implement in their use case. And this is something which you can find in the tools, than in the more deepening tools.
But I think it's a good idea to indicate this on the canvas. Somehow the canvas, it looks on the surface somehow, it looks like only orientation, and the real work, the real content work is done by the tools. And this is right. So, but maybe we can indicate, this is an idea, maybe we can indicate on the canvas that how to continue with this kind of deep dive, and those questions, they are all addressed there, but the link there, we could make it more obvious then. I think this is a good idea. We will think about this. Thanks, Jean-Christophe. Yeah, here you can see, Sonja, just this.
I'm just showing on the screen, this would be now the one tool, the Data Explorer, as I just mentioned. And it's in terms of scoping the different type of data sources needed. And then in terms of exploring each data source more detailed, and then also like assess how is the preparation cost and how important the value is. And giving this, then the people might find out, to summary, maybe you need to do GDPR analysis. So basically then next steps in terms of the investigation is done. I have to say, I mean, the data-driven innovation framework is more or less like guiding you to ask all the important questions. So, I mean, the answers then, to come to the answers, then you probably need to have some more detailed research, or like find it out how to improve quality. You might need to do some investigations, but it's more or less like trying to guide you not to forget important questions in order to, blind spots. And as Tomás was saying before, maybe he would have prioritized aspects differently if he had asked this question beforehand. And as I said before, I mean, it's for each of the dimensions, different tools are available.
And this is real work. People are sweating. When it comes to the tool level, our experience is now people are either not prepared completely in the sense of, okay, we need to understand, so we need to do some homework. On the other side, people are really sweating, answering all those questions. This is real work.
I think, Jean-Christophe, we have a couple of people that raised their
We have
hands.
Arnaud that raised the hand, so he should be able to talk. Hi, Arnaud.
Yes, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, clear.
Yes. So, so good afternoon, Sonja. Good afternoon, all. So thanks for the presentations. It was really, really very interesting to me. I have a question related to the. It seems to me that the canvas is really tuned for profit-making innovations. But what we see more and more is innovation driven by non-profit requirements or willingness. So, for example, we see innovations targeted towards social welfare or things. My question is, do you believe that the canvas can be adapted to this, and or is it already adapted for that?
I mean, I know that's a very important question, because in particular we have I mean, it's very important to bring social impact to the people, and I think AI is like a very important means to deliver this. The question, the framework can be used for these purposes. The point is that, like, now a statement, like for each of, also if it has like social impact and you bring social value, at the end of the day, you have to identify how to sustain it, right? How to ensure that the innovation, the way how it's operationalized, can sustain longer time. And then in terms of basically how would you integrate it, you would ask like question in terms of how to ensure sustainability. So basically you would analyze the value you bring to these different target user, but you would also analyze that you need to have some type of stakeholder in place who would need either fund it or like ensure that you have like a minimum investment in order to ensure that the operation is going right. So you might need to think about if we continue with the as Thomas was asking, if you would think about how to ensure sustainability for the AI for EU platform, you would need to think about maybe for a non-profit organization who has members are interested in ensuring the investment. But then you would need to understand why would these members participating in these non-for-profit organization are of interest joining and paying for it. So basically you would need to analyze then sort of an ecosystem, how they would be willing to join and what are their interests again.
Thanks a lot. Thanks.
Basically, when I made just one comment, basically money is only one currency. You of course you can somehow direct the whole thing into the direction of this currency, money, but of course you can switch the currency. You say, okay, if I'm just thinking about other currencies, social security, attention, whatever, these are other currencies. You can use the canvas for getting an idea how to get there. But in the end, I mean, if you want your solution to be a sustainable solution, you need to identify people that are using it, people that are working with it, and not necessarily pay for it. But there should be somehow an exchange, or you need to create value. Maybe you can get it in a way that people are not need to pay for it, but still you need a kind of you need to connect those demand and what's the other side of demand? Supply. You need to somehow connect this, and maybe not with money, but then with another currency.
Do we have other people who would like to raise a question? Thanks a lot, Arnaud, for attending and raising the question. So maybe we can go to the. So I will end this poll, and I will have another polling, especially for the people that say yes right now, and yes in the next 12 months. But maybe we can talk about the website and maybe the also potential workshop.
Yeah. Thank you,
Yeah.
Jean-Christophe. So basically, let me just summarize what we just presented. So basically, what we have, this data-driven innovation framework has different levels with what you said, the canvas, the guiding question, and then the tools. And just for everybody, oops, sorry, we have introduced all the different dimensions. So basically, I've talked about this before. And these are the guiding questions, and the more detailed questions are when you download the tools. And here are the examples and what I wanted to share with you. Here are some workshop experiences, what we are doing. And this is here the website, DDI-Canvas.com, where you can go to the website and where you find all the materials. So basically why we are doing it, what and how. I mean, I could also go to the website I have not prepared. Jean-Christophe, do you want me to show the website directly, or?
Yeah, maybe for the others, yes.
Yeah, maybe just wait, give me a moment.
We'll put the address on the chat.
Give me a moment. Here we are.
Maybe you could just focus, show the workspace there. This is interesting. Oh.
Takes some time to load.
Yeah, it is.
Wait, I need to share again.
I share on the chat the link, so you can also access it yourself. All of the canvas that you have seen that was developed by Sonja within the BDVe project is free for download, and you can reuse it.
Mm-hmm.
So basically what you see here, it's from the website, you can see the different, some explanations, how you're using it, that you have the canvas and the navigator, the tools. You can download the different aspects, and here you can also download the different tools for each of the dimensions. If you're using it, we are very interested in getting your feedback. This is very valuable for us in terms of trying to understand which type of projects you're using, so that we can also build on your experiences. And in addition, I mean, if you would like to run workshops, if you would like to have like coaching sessions and stuff like this, you can just come get in contact with us. There are many ways in terms of engaging with you. We're also partnering with, for example, Evalea to have like self-assessment and monitoring tools. So basically, if you're interested in those things, also various ways in terms of getting engaged and doing more deep dive technologies. Yeah, there's also research behind. I mean, we've run a study with more than 90 startups. So if you're interested in looking at this, where we identified patterns of how the different aspects are used. So you see that it's all like funded on data analytics as well. And also we have identified some success patterns. So basically, which type of companies and offerings are available in order to get some guidance where to put the focus on. And here you see the different partners. So it's like BDVe and the different organizations who are involved here, and also like people who could support you in bringing this forward if you're interested in.
We started, this is something new because of Corona, of course, we started to work with virtual workshops. So we just integrated here like a workspace, a virtual workspace. You find here with and the topic workspace there. So in there you get a straightforward link to a concept board site where we can already prepare in order to work with your team on a virtual base. And you can access this by this website, but of course we need to get in contact there in order to get the keys for login, whatever. But it is possible, as you see, it is possible to work with the canvas. I love to work with people in one room and everything, but this obviously is difficult at the moment. So we find a solution how we work on a virtual base, and it works quite well with this kind of concept board. You can really work with a team in online live, that you can start to really work workshops not to get together, but have this kind of virtual experience. And to repeat myself, it works quite nicely, to be honest.
And the result is what was showed during the Tomás and my presentation. This is done with the workspace on concept board.
Yeah.
And you can use it also for documentation purpose if you want.
Yeah. So, any questions? Yeah.
Some questions, some drink?
I think there is a question on the chat.
Have you ever used DDI for healthcare project? I can open you the mic.
Who's asking this? Who's asking this?
Leah.
Yeah. So Leah, I mean the.
We'll open the mic so it can be more precise. Wait 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
You can.
Yes, well, I'm a PhD student and I'm working on a project optimization project in an operational theater. And I was just wondering if you had ever used your Canva for healthcare related projects, because I was thinking that maybe I could use it to like give some context and like a framework for what we're trying to do too.
Mm-hmm. So yes, we used it. In particular, I mean, my experience using it in the healthcare domain is that you easily, by using the method, you find argumentation why to stop a project in healthcare, because healthcare, I think it's very important to get a deep understanding of the stakeholders involved, right? Because you need to understand the incentive system, who at the end of the day will pay for your solution. This is not very easy, and I can give you my own experience from we have one case where we developed already. I mean, we used the method too late, but by applying the methods, we got an indication why we would stop the project, because at the end of the day, we analyzed that we were not able to make money, right? So we couldn't. It was a decision support system, and we couldn't bring it into Siemens tools, but we couldn't bring it to the end customer, basically due to the fact that everybody was happy to have it, but nobody was interested in having it. And I think it's a very central area to explore. The healthcare domain has many different stakeholders with their different roles and interests. You think about the payers, the manufacturer, the patients, the doctors, and all of them needs to be involved. So basically, I think you can simply use it for healthcare. We are also using the DDI framework for lecture at Technical University in Munich. And so here we have the case that student projects are running for the whole semester. Like, I mean, this is up to 4 months. So we started last week and they end at September. And at this project, also companies are joining to bring their cases, what they would like the students to be involved. And I think in this semester, we had half of the industrial use cases that come from healthcare domain. So because it seems to be the most complex, or like not the most, but it seems to be a quite complex sector, right? And for that reason, as it's nice to get guidance in this area. So definitely yes, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Are there any other questions or comments? Obviously not.
I mean, we're running close to half past 5, and I think that was actually the ending time for. We thought that, I mean, each of you would like to stay with us. We were thinking to maybe Jean-Christophe get some wine, right? For all of us. But maybe Jean-Christophe, you can put all the people who would like to join as panelists, and then we can have a more in a relaxed affair, right? If you have additional questions, and if not, then we just the speakers between us. We have a closing session and celebrate the day. Thank you to everybody.
Thanks for everybody for your questions. I did some polling, and we have seen that some people that are interested to use the framework. So please send us an email. We will open the mic. I will now stop the recording, and we'll open the mic. So feel free to address us directly without email. So not face to face, but not in real life yet. But let's hope in the future. And thanks everybody, and let's stay with us for a drink.